this rider. I think they'll be coming out soon. I am about 10 minutes early, so stand by. With these reservations on the Uber app, like there's an option where you can reserve a ride, and then Uber will guarantee that there will be a driver there at the time that you need them to be, so you don't have to wait unnecessarily. It usually has us drivers pull up in advance, like as early as 15 minutes sometimes. Here we have about 9 minutes here, just over 10. Yeah, just over 9 minutes, and sometimes they're ready right away, and other times they may not be. And like this morning, I had one that I pulled up to, and I waited, and the time for the appointment came. He didn't come out. The 5 minute grace, or the 5 minute extended time frame came and went. Sent him a message. He texted back a few minutes later saying that he'd slept in. So that happens on occasion, but it's always uncertain what you're going to experience or anticipate. But it's neat being able to visit a whole bunch of neighborhoods that you have no business going into otherwise, right? And a great way to explore the place where you live. So now we just do the waiting game. Oh, music. I like this music. Recently, in the last couple of years, I've gotten into dancing, and I thought, oh, this would be a really cool experience to dance to this kind of music. I enjoy this music. I listen to it often. It's like my brain food. But dancing to it, oh, that would be an amazing experience. The other thing about this opportunity that I never know what to anticipate is, will I get a chance to explore some more on the theme of integrity, which is my primary commitment in my new frontier. As I drive, I look for those opportunities to dive deep into exploring what integrity looks like for men specifically, but in general as well too. And I like tapping into the ideas and perspectives and anecdotes that my riders will have. So that's also really cool. I think often of a word called legacy. I watch others, especially leaders, and consider what their legacy is and how compelling it is or not. And I also think about it in reference to myself. And I think when it comes to the word legacy, I want to leave one worthwhile leaving. And for me, my legacy revolves around encouraging young men specifically, inspiring them to commit to living with integrity, to wrestling with what that looks like for themselves. So yeah, I think this is my rider here. He is probably still getting ready. He just came out of the side door, but I don't think he's ready yet. So at any point here, I may have to jump out and run and grab the door, because one of the things I do in my Uber is I enjoy grabbing their bags for them. Gotta go. Be right back. I'll be careful with it. That's a solid bag. And that's a tripod. Gotcha. I'm intrigued. Pacific. My name is Biniam. Nice to meet you. Okay, I already noticed the hat. That's a camera symbol.
Yeah, so
Well, actually, it's a Greek symbol, alpha.
yeah.
With the
it's a
Sony A.
Sony Alpha line of cameras.
Before I go any further, I just want to give you a quick heads up here
Yeah.
on two things. One, in my Uber, I do something unusual where I love sharing a lot of my experiences. I encourage, inspire others in who love the kind of conversations I have along the way.
Right
So
on.
I wanted you to have a heads up so that you don't say or do things that you're like, oh, I didn't want that to be on the internet, you know? So just a heads up that way. You're off camera, but just wanted you to be aware of that. Secondly, are we going domestic or international today at the airport? Are you going international or domestic?
WestJet local.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I will get us there.
Out to Vancouver Island, hopefully, because they're having a major storm out there.
Oh,
so-
seriously? I did not hear that. Okay.
Yeah, they're calling it a bomb cyclone. It's like 100-kilometer-per-hour winds and
Really?
power outages. So I haven't heard that there's any delays yet. So
Is that why you're going there?
no, I've got family out there.
Okay.
My dad is 98.
Yeah.
And I've
Whoa.
got 4 younger brothers. And
Okay.
we'll all get together.
Just because.
Yeah.
I like that.
because-
Alright, so let me tell you the reference point that was catching my interest, and that is only recently am I interested in cameras. I'm not really interested in photography. I don't know if I have an eye for it,
Oh yeah.
but because I've been curating content online for some time, I've been doing a lot on my own, trying to understand what are the best dynamics, how do I. And so recently I've been preparing for a significant investment in a camera. I'm going to mention the name and you'll be like, oh really? The Sony FX3.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm familiar with it.
And I'll tell you just the rationale and probably get some of your insights as well. So I'm doing something unusual now where this live streaming option here is a new frontier for me. I've never done that before. Usually I just record my rides, and when I have permission I share the footage, and I use like these GoPros. So they suffice. They're just simple
Yeah.
point and click kind of thing. However, I was thinking it'd be neat to share like the in the moment experience with my followers, and just the energy of what that looks like. I do my work here in the both daytime and nighttime. These are terrible for one audio, and terrible at nighttime as well. Terrible. So I went to the camera store and said, "Could you give me some options of what I can invest in that will have a better capacity at nighttime when I'm recording as well too?"
Right.
And so they suggested the FX30 and the FX3. FX3 especially just because it has a full frame. Now I don't understand a lot of these terms and what it means, but they're just saying it has a full something,
Full frame.
full frame. Yeah, that will make it far more amenable for nighttime recording, for example. And so I thought, okay, but it's a really significant investment, that one. Oh my goodness, is it ever? And on top of that, the other part that I mean, there's also the 4K recording option. That's a primarily video one. It's not necessarily geared for photography, even though I can do that, but that's not really my intention. So my thought was I will set that up in here. And the other thing I wanted to do is as I live stream, I'm really also aware of and want to have the conversation of what consent looks like by way of privacy. So with live streaming, I have my riders off screen, for example, currently on my phone. But with that camera, the other thing that really drew me to it is that it gives me the option of blurring the background while the focus is on me, for example, or something like that. So that's as far as I got in my thought process of how I could curate this. And then I would have it connected, of course, to a laptop with a HDMI or something cable that can help, you know. Oh, and on top of that, sorry, I'm just regurgitating a lot that I've been learning. That one also has like the rig that you can attach to it and include like the handle that has XR inputs for audio, in which I could rig out like some lapel mics around the vehicle for audio that can be mixed right directly in through the recording process as well, and that's
Yep.
another way I'm trying to account for the audio. Currently, I'm using these mobile microphones that have a transmitter. This is how far I've gotten so far. And so when I saw you with your camera bag and your hat, I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
he must know a lot more than I do, because I'm just like at the beginning of all this.
Yeah.
Tell me about your thoughts so far on
I was at the head office for Shaw
Okay.
Cable. I was in their video production department
Yeah.
for almost 30 years. We produced videos for the company.
Oh, wow.
For the marketing department.
Yeah.
Or whatever they wanted, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I'm very experienced, but I mean, I started out when, even before digital, we were working with tape back in the day. And
I remember
carrying
those days.
around heavy tape recorders.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
I remember that.
And editing from one tape deck to another.
Wow.
And then when computers started to come out and offer that
Yeah.
capability of editing, we all thought, that's never going to work.
Right.
Eventually, we embraced it
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. Look at this.
So, yeah, I don't have that camera, but I have the A7 S3, which is basically the same camera, same sensor, just slightly different features. And I have an A7 III. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it's called. But that S3 model
Yeah.
has very, very good low light capability, and so will that camera here. Considering they're basically the same.
Are they the same
Pretty
price?
much the same camera, except what I don't like about
The FX3?
that one,
Yeah.
I can't hold it up.
It doesn't have a viewfinder.
Just really make sure
Yeah.
things are in focus. 'Cause
Right.
sometimes when you're relying on that
Screen?
back screen,
It's too
right,
small.
sunlight,
Yeah.
it's like you can't really see very well. So that's when I like to go down and just double check. But the camera is so good at focus.
Yeah.
It just nails it all the time.
Amazing.
It locks onto people's eyes.
Yeah. I've seen those.
And their head. Right?
Their faces,
So
yeah.
if the eyes happen
It follows that.
to go off,
Yeah.
it'll change to following the head, right?
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I've done a lot of interview type shoots where it's just so reliable.
Yeah. Additionally, I learned there's monitors you can acquire that are larger screens that. So I foresee I'll also need to invest in that, because part of my dynamic is I also do on the street interviews as well too, with a selfie stick, for example. And so even considering what a rig will look like and the kind of things I'll need to acquire to facilitate all that.
I've got kind of a love-hate relationship with that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's necessary
Sure.
for professional shooting
Right.
situations.
Yeah.
You add this cage
Yep.
to the camera, and
Yep.
it allows you to screw in
All these attachments.
things.
Yeah.
But then you can end up with so much stuff attached to it
Yeah.
that it starts to become a bit cumbersome.
Cumbersome. I've heard that.
And then sometimes I wish I was just back in the day where all we did is just work with a true video camera, where you didn't have that stuff. Right?
Gotcha.
'Cause we used to shoot with big Betacam cameras,
Yeah.
and stuff like that were
Speed
very
of red light
good.
camera
Yeah.
is 300 meters.
But I mean, I've certainly
Speed limit
learned
is 50 kilometers per hour.
but you've got to allow for extra time to set up and make sure everything's working.
See, like in my, I'm very specific about what I need things to do. So I usually go with a very curated list of here's what I need to have happen, here's the exact specs of what I'm aiming for, here's the outcome I want to have. And so I don't like taking on extemporaneous additional things that are unnecessary. Like I'm very just fine-tuned and saying, here's what I needed to do. And so along those lines, even as I think of like the planning process of progression of which one am I going to get first, how am I going to implement this, that kind of thing. So when I went in, you know, to talk to the camera folks, as I went down my list, it went from oh yeah, we got anything that you need to you know, even when I consider the computer or the laptop that I'll be acquiring and what I needed to have, like same thing over at that place. It was just there's more of an accounting that says, okay, this is something very niche and specific that you're aiming for in essence, right? And even the fact that this is I'm just an entry level, but I'm thinking of this level here because I like doing an investment once for the long term. And like I say, Patrick, this is not my area of expertise. I'm learning a lot and just watching a variety of inputs that can help me get acclimatized, just because it's not my interest per se, but I want to produce quality work. I have the ideas that I'm working with that I want to, that are the very, very forefront of my content. But there's just the quality that is also transpiring along the way. So that's why I'm even far more aware now of the importance of audio. What does audio look like? How am I going to account for that? What about lighting? Like all these things that were just beyond my periphery before, I'm like, oh, just point and shoot, as opposed to now, where am I going to set this up? Where's my background going to be? And how am I going to like kind of take all these things into accounting? It's been a real interesting learning process. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You're gonna have to be pretty committed because you might get frustrated with it at first because you don't understand
Sure.
why is it doing this or why is it doing that.
Right.
Because I grew up in the days of shooting film
Yeah.
where you didn't see your image until you developed the film, and then it would come out overexposed or underexposed.
Uh-huh.
You had to think about, okay, what did I do wrong
Yeah.
there? you know?
Yeah.
And you'll probably go through some of that because of not understanding things like depth of field,
Mm-hmm.
which is what you're talking about, making your background
Blurry.
right?
Right. Yeah.
There's something called depth of field, which
Right.
is kind of that plane
Yeah.
that's in focus,
Yeah.
and it changes
Yeah.
as you change your aperture.
Gotcha.
So the more wide open your aperture, the more narrow that depth of field is. So we most of us
Yeah.
in the cinematic world, we
Yeah.
like to blur the background. So we tend to want to shoot more wide open,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes there's too much light to do that. So then you're adding filters to your lens that are called neutral density filters that are like sunglasses. So they
Gotcha.
knock down the light, which allows you to
Hone in.
open up your lens, make that shallow depth of field, right?
Intriguing. Yeah.
So there's those little things that at first you might not understand. It might be a good idea to take some courses
Okay.
in photography or video
Yeah.
production, just to help you
Familiarize.
learn that stuff faster. And there's a lot of stuff on YouTube you
Sure.
can learn from.
Tap
for
into.
sure.
Yeah.
And my wife makes jewelry, so I have to photograph her jewelry, right?
Okay.
Which is considered product photography.
Okay.
To photograph a shiny piece of metal
Yeah.
is challenging
Yeah.
because if you don't, you almost have to be enclosed in a white tent,
Okay.
because then it'll reflect white in
Right.
those shiny parts,
Yeah.
and if you don't, it'll look black.
Oh.
So
I
you
see.
don't want your shiny bracelet to suddenly look black.
Sure.
I mean, you do. Sometimes you want a little thin edge of black
Yeah.
and another thin edge of white, and
Gotcha.
that creates the illusion of depth.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff I have to
Account for.
go through to try
Yeah.
and make jewelry look good.
I
Right?
see.
And I'm going to be doing a shoot with some models soon,
Okay.
wearing jewelry, so I'm curious how that's all going to go.
So, do you carry your cameras wherever you go just because you're always ready for a moment when you could catch a moment, or
not as much anymore with
Okay.
having a cell phone,
yeah.
because cell phones now are so good
Mm.
doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the camera bag is so heavy
I noticed that. Yeah.
to carry around.
Right.
I mean, I went on a trip to France way back in 2013
Yeah.
with my wife and grandkids, and
Yeah.
I was packing my camera on my back
Yeah.
wherever we went,
Yeah.
because I did want to have it available. Didn't have a really good phone back then.
Sure. Huh.
So those kind of things might frustrate you a little bit. You might find, like, some people advise learn how to do it on your phone,
Mm.
because you might be very surprised at how well
Competent.
it does stuff.
The phone wouldn't be able to account for things like depth of field, though, would it?
Yeah, they can now. because
Really?
There's like 3 lenses.
Yeah.
There's a wide angle
On the back. Yeah.
and a telephoto, because a telephoto is also going to compress that background
Okay.
and make it blurry.
Okay.
So that was something I would do in an interview.
Yeah.
Like back up quite far
Yeah.
from the subject.
Yeah.
Use a telephoto, zoom
Okay.
in
Yeah.
to frame the guy.
Sure.
That makes the background blurry as well.
Yeah.
So, but then you need a
Zoom.
like a 70 to 200 millimeter lens,
Yeah.
which costs $3,000.
Ooh.
You know, when you start adding up all
I-
this stuff,
Yeah.
you can, and when you're talking about getting external monitors and all that,
Yeah.
you can drop somewhere between 10 and 20 grand pretty fast on all this stuff, and then you might find 6 months later it's like, oh, I hate this shit, you know. And then, like, I bought stuff off of eBay
Yeah.
from people who had the same idea you
Oh,
did,
wow.
wanting to become these incredible photographers.
Yeah.
This girl did rock climbing, and she
Yeah.
wanted to photograph that.
Sure.
And she gave up after a while, and I was able to buy a really nice lens off of her
At a good price
at
point.
about half the price she paid.
Wow.
Stuff like that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I hear ya.
So, but if you're passionate enough, you'll follow it through. If it feeds your passion, right?
Mhm. Yeah, like I was saying, my passion is over here, but to facilitate this passion, I'm having to learn and account for so many other elements while I'm still solo
Yeah.
and having to look after a lot of these particulars, right? And also when I think about the way that I present my presentation and how I'd like it to arrive or hit, it's almost like, for example, once upon a time, working in a seniors complex, I was hired to paint the walls for them and all the different suites that were, coming vacant. And when I first started, they said, "Do you know how to paint?" I said, "Of course. Who doesn't? Just kind of put paint on there." So I started, and then when the supervisor came to check on me after it, she just saw the mess that it was. I thought it was just a simple process, but she said, "Actually, let me help you understand." And then I started learning the proper way, what to start looking for. I got really proficient and efficient in being able to look at a room and make sure it was well presented by the time I was done. But that took some intel that I didn't have before. What happened then was, now that I knew what quality looked like, I couldn't turn that off. Now I started seeing the blemishes everywhere else because I knew what to look for. I had a new sight line, if you will, right? I feel in a similar way just in this world that I'm inhabiting, saying, I want to take space here, but here's the things that are going to help me get a little further in arriving with my audience, for example. Here's the things that facilitate, here's the things that detract, if you will. And once you know something, you can't unknow it, right? And all of a sudden you're like, okay, that was a good presentation for X, Y, and Z reasons. And so the investment for me in learning this whole area isn't primarily driven by passion for this, but this is the reason that I want to facilitate the passion, if you will, So yeah, that's why I feel very much at the beginning of it all, still acquiring information and saying, what am I missing here so far? And for example, like your encouragement to say, what would it look like for me to get familiar with all of these necessary awareness zones on a phone, for example? I'm like, I never thought of that idea. That's a really great idea. How can I work with what I have in the meantime and get a little bit more familiar? My brother, he's like, you and him would have a far deeper conversation because he's a photographer. I've always just watched his interest from the sidelines saying, interesting, I'll let you do your thing. So he's in all these technical ways that I'm like, oh, ISO and all.
Right.
But I'm seeing for my part, my only engagement that drives this here is to say, I'd like to do it well. And so let me understand a bit better at the outset.
Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and then there's also the editing side, which, if you want to have a good YouTube video, you probably need to learn editing.
Funny enough, for the editing, I've been using DaVinci for my video. It's the non-Apple side of video editing, and I've learned a lot in that process as well. But I learned as much as I need to for my bare minimum. So, because for me, I mean, like, I don't even go into the color grading because that zone is still unfamiliar for me. I'm like, that's beyond my expertise so far, but I'll look after the synchronization of the audio, make sure that's, good levels. I'll ensure that, like, as best as I can, with the other components. So it's very simple, I'm sure, my approach still. And maybe it's just incrementally that I keep getting better, or until at such a point as I can hire someone else to say, all right, look after this for me.
Are you familiar with Peter McKinnon?
No.
He's a YouTube guy. He's
Okay.
very successful.
McKinnon.
Yeah, Peter McKinnon.
How do you spell McKinnon?
McKinnon.
Okay. McKinnon, there we are.
He rocketed to 1 million plus viewers within about a year.
Wow.
After he went on there, but he's very outgoing, entertaining. He used to be a magician.
Yeah.
He's really got the knack for catching people's attention.
Amazing.
And he was a photographer,
Yeah.
video person. So
Yeah.
if you come across his stuff, I'd say watch that.
Okay.
Because he's very motivational.
Yeah.
There's another guy, Casey Neistat,
I've heard of him.
who's from New York.
Yeah.
I found him before I found Peter.
McKinnon.
And then Peter showed up on Casey's videos.
Okay.
They became friends.
Collaborators, okay.
Now, Casey's kind of stepped away from that.
I've heard that. Yeah.
He's become successful enough that he doesn't need it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the one that, I guess, introduced a new way of vlogging, or...
Yeah, he probably was one of the first
Yeah, made it more aware. Like, more...
early guys.
Yeah.
Because when you're doing that stuff, you have to... You're not just shooting yourself talking. You gotta shoot more, what's called B-roll,
Yeah.
of yourself
Doing the things.
walking down the street,
Yeah.
or doing this or doing that,
Yeah.
integrating drone footage
Yeah.
into it, so it starts to become very complex, right?
Right.
Which is nice if you've got another person
Sure.
that can videotape you while
Yep.
you're doing stuff.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Right?
Yeah, yeah. I've also sourced or looked at options where you could actually have a video soundboard that gives you, so you can have different angles. So like when I'm in my studio at home recording there, I'll have 2 or 3 different camera angles
Yeah.
that I can switch back and forth from, which actually, so like with these 2, I have 2 here, and then this could be a 3rd one, but when I was on the street doing my interviews, I would have my 2 GoPros and I'd have my phone camera. I'd have the GoPros on 2 different angle points and then my phone as well. And when I was doing the editing, I could incorporate the different shifts and angles that way, which is also really helpful. I was learning that aspect as well too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good. You're starting to understand the necessity of that, right?
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
different camera angles
And why? Yeah.
and trying to make them all look similar.
Indeed, indeed. And again, for me, the whole driving point is I believe so much in what I'm doing and what I'm trying to accomplish. But my main thought is, what can I take away by way of concern or distraction? Think of the content in the way that I design, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the challenge, is to, when I hear some of these YouTube guys talk, I've never
Yeah.
bothered doing YouTube stuff myself.
Yeah.
I understand what they're saying, is after a while it becomes a challenge to keep coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the most successful guys, like Casey and Peter, they were posting videos
Regular.
very regular, right? So
Yeah.
they had to almost every day
Yeah.
some new idea.
Do you see why I enjoy what I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this one here, like there's the live stream, which I'm just recently starting with, and this one here I think is going to help me with that in the moment experience for one. But then it's also recording like regularly throughout the day, and so I hope to beef that up as well too, because I do this full time and I love doing this full time and I love what it gets talked about. And then the recording when I get permission, and I was going to ask you about that too, because I really enjoyed this conversation. Patrick, I hope you know you can say no, right? But I'd love to be able to even share our time together in our conversation if you're open to it. But I'm also aware that many
Yeah.
people are very private, and I want to value that element as well too.
There, that's fine.
You're open to that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
But even that is just another way that I've told my followers even before you came into the vehicle, saying, "Hey, just so you know, my priority is my ride, and I want to make sure that's well. So that's why they're off camera, for example. And if there's see the full recording if I get that consent. Other than that, you know, like they've been, you know, leaving comments and so on here, and I tell them I won't interact with your comments unless it has something to do with our conversation per se. You know, I won't be talking to them per se because I want them to understand that this is my priority here. This is my job. This is how I bring value, and they're just kind of being a fly on the wall, if they will. And so along those lines, I'm trying to think through how can I do this in a way that safeguards and then also still hits the right notes, if you will. It's a very amazing option, though, to be able to share ideas in this way. It's accessible if you have something to talk about and say, here's what I want to contribute in the world, you know? I'm really grateful.
No, it's great because often cab rides, you go from one place to another and nobody says anything.
I think this is probably one of the reasons I've been seeing why I've been so experiencing as much success as I have in this setting, and I thrive in what I get to do. But a significant part of it is also being aware, I think, of the social dynamics, because there'll be rides where they give clear indication, not in a mean way, but they're just not in the zone for conversation, for example,
Right.
or extending themselves. There's some people I don't even ask, you know, I'm like, hey, I tell the folks, if it's that kind of a ride where there's going to be silence, I'm going to honor that.
Yeah.
And you guys, I'll just kind of flip the camera on them so they can see me drive instead, where I'm driving and so on, to be more entertaining for them, perhaps. But no, I love the job because it's always an opportunity to connect with someone in a way that was unexpected. I had no idea what I was going to talk to you about, for example, right? Or see what your perspective in the world was. And here we are, half an hour later, and I'm like feeling enriched. So thank you.
It's, actually, I just had a sinking feeling.
Yeah.
iPad at home, but
Oh, darn.
too late now.
Oh, darn. That's frustrating.
But I have my phone, so
That's something.
better than nothing.
That's something. Let me help you grab your bags, Patrick. Oh boy, I just remembered now.
And I
amazing? Hello, Bob. Thank you for the kind comments, and I appreciate your well wishes as well for my future. For my future success. I feel quite confident. Well, yeah, I feel quite confident that I will make it eventually. I just am patient to get there, and I want to do it well. And so, thank you for tuning in and sharing some encouragement with me. That was Patrick. It was a great conversation. Again, unexpected, but some really good things that we talked about there that I benefited from. So I will share that recording from my GoPro on my YouTube channel later, so you can catch up with that. I'm gonna just go off here. I might get another ride here momentarily. I'm not sure, but I'll see you on the next live stream. Cheers.